In this question, we're told an experiment wants to carry out a reaction between a solution of strontium hydroxide and a solution of sulfuric acid. Our goal is to write a balanced equation for this reaction. So firstly, let's figure out our formulas for strontium hydroxide and sulfuric acid. For the acids, you should know those. Sulfuric acid is H2SO4. For strontium hydroxide, let's go find strontium in the periodic table. Here's strontium down here. So strontium is in group 2, meaning that strontium is going to make a 2+ ion. So we've got strontium 2+ ions, and we've got hydroxide. The hydroxide ion is OH-. So the formula for strontium hydroxide is going to be Sr, and we're going to have OH2, so that we've got two OHs, 2 minus charges, to go with the 2+ charge of the strontium. So there's our formulas for our reactants. So strontium hydroxide we said is SrOH2, and sulfuric acid we said is H2SO4. We're also told that they're solutions. So both of these are going to be AQ or aqueous, meaning in solution. Next, to figure out what we're going to form, we're going to think about our compounds swapping ions with each other. And let's remind ourselves that sulfuric acid, that would be the H+ ion and the SO4 2- ion. We're going to have 2 of the OH- and 2 of the H+. Neutralization is a type of double replacement reaction. So our compounds are swapping partners with each other. So the strontium is currently with the hydroxide. The strontium is going to switch to being with the sulfate ion. And then the hydroxide is going to switch to being with the hydrogen ion. So we're going to end up with strontium sulfate. Strontium has a charge of 2+, sulfate has a charge of 2-. So we just need one of those with each other in order for our charges to balance. And then we've got H+ and OH-. Together that makes H2O. But we've got 2 H+ and 2 O-. So that's going to make 2 H2O. Let's go ahead and fill those in. Strontium sulfate and water. And we know water is a liquid at room temperature. Let's head to the reference sheet to find out if strontium sulfate is soluble. Here's the solubility rules page of the reference sheet. Here's salts of sulfate. They are generally soluble, except they're insoluble when combined with these things, which includes strontium. So as a result, strontium sulfate is going to be insoluble. If it's insoluble, that means it's going to form a solid precipitate. Okay, so we've got all of our compounds. We've got our state symbols. Next, we just need to make sure our equation is balanced. We already said we think we're going to have a 2 here because we had 2 H+ and 2 OH-. Let's go ahead and draw a table to check if each of our elements are balanced. So we've got strontium, oxygen, hydrogen, and sulfur. So our first compound is strontium hydroxide. That gives us 1 strontium and 2 hydroxides, so 2 oxygens and 2 hydrogens. Then we have sulfuric acid, H2SO4. So that gives us 2 more hydrogens, 1 sulfur, and 4 more oxygens. So that gives us a total of 6 oxygens and 4 hydrogens. Now let's look at the products. We've got strontium sulfate, which contains 1 strontium, 1 sulfur, and 4 oxygens. Then we've got 2 sets of H2O. So from the H2O, we get 2 H's, but we've got 2 sets of them. So that's 4 H's. And then we've got 2 O's coming from the 2 H2O. That gives us a total of 6 oxygens. So strontium is balanced, oxygen is balanced, hydrogen is balanced, and sulfur is balanced. That means our equation is balanced correctly. So we can go ahead and enter in our numbers. Remember, typically we don't include a 1 coefficient when we're writing chemical equations, but on this platform you do need to include a 1 to show that you just have one of that thing. So we've got 1 strontium hydroxide, 1 sulfuric acid, 1 strontium sulfate, and 2 water. So in this skill, you're going to start by figuring out the formulas of your 2 reactants. If it's an acid, you should have its formula memorized. If it's a hydroxide, you can use the periodic table to figure out the charge on your metal ion so that you know how many hydroxide ions need to go with that metal ion. Next, we're going to think of a double replacement reaction happening because that's what neutralization is. So the acid is going to lose a hydrogen. The base is going to accept a hydrogen. And then if we have a hydroxide and an acid, then we're going to get water formed as well. Finally, use the reference sheet in the solutions tab to figure out if your products are soluble. If they are, it's going to be aqueous for the state symbol. If they're not soluble, it's going to be solid for the state symbol and a precipitate will be formed.